I could be here and go like that, right? And it doesn't matter, right? And literally, I'm just hurting my hand on his elbow, right? So this is some of the power that you can develop, the solidity you can develop, and it's a game changer when it comes to somebody else's force. When pressure is applied to the elbow, it does not move back. The body, and you use footwork instead when you feel pressure to the elbow. So as Destin comes in and applies pressure to my elbow, I'm going to go to the other side. As you see it, he presses, I move to the other side. This never comes back against my body. I'm never going to allow this to happen, because then I lose my strength. I lose my guard. We fight from behind the elbows, and we keep them between us and our opponent. All right, when we're talking about structure, we're talking about solidity. So understand that. That's a broad term, structure, but really structure is short for skeletal structure, and we're referring to it as being stable in these individual joints. One of the most important ones, is how strong is your elbow, because what that does is it protects you when someone's coming in. So if I'm trying to get in through Mark's elbow to get to his center, I'm going to go there and feel his structure. And it's pretty dang good right there. Now, this all comes from two separate things. One is from the shoulder, the scapula. The shoulder must be down and under. Okay, so that's what you've got to understand here, down and under. Then the extension of that scapula, the shoulder blade, is going to be your elbow. Okay, so think of it that way, coming down and under this way, and then out. Okay, so this has to be two ideas, because the shoulder is down, but the elbow is forward. You can literally feel much stronger than it seems like you are, right? You can feel so much stronger than what you can bench press or anything like that, because it's all about this solidity connecting one bone to another. That's the joint stability, right? Whether you're doing a tan sao or a fuk sao or a punch or anything like that, it's still the same thing here, okay? So whatever I'm doing, right? Yeah. Right? Whatever I'm doing doesn't matter. Yeah. Right? Doesn't matter how hard an uppercut is coming at you. Mm-hmm. If they're running into this elbow, then that's it. Right? Now, granted, you also have to be ready to defend against something higher. So what do? Yes, right. You must raise that elbow to make sure it's always between you and them. Always between that. So as I go, yes, absolutely. Because of that strong structure that you've developed over the years, that's why it's so difficult. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And you should understand that. You know, Mark's been working on a number of years on this structure.
Yeah, the hard thing is to trust it, because like Sifu said, you are connecting. You have to settle first. Like before you can connect, like one of the problems that I've continued to have is I'm up high, even though I think my shoulders or my scapula is down, it's still not down. It's not, and so there's no way to connect it unless you're settled.
That's a great point. So something I didn't mention earlier in this, prior to having your shoulder down, you've got to let go of the antagonistic muscles that are raising it up, right? So I call this different levels. You could be on the second floor with your shoulder. We want to be in the basement, as I like to say. So first, in order to get into the basement, you've got to settle your shoulders. You've got to get out of the traps here. These raise the shoulders up, right? You've got to make sure your head isn't too far forward, because that'll engage those traps too. So the head's got to be back, the shoulders got to be back and down. And then from there, settle the shoulders. Then then engage and think under. Think under as low as you can. Think under. Don't force it.
Right.
Settle and think it. Let it settle down. I guess that's a great point.
Because forcing it down is you're like creating this downward pressure, which is very different than structure. So now you're actually you're creating this downward, like physical or external downward versus an internal.
When we're talking about structure, it's different than what you see in the external martial arts. You know, a lot of people do karate or taekwondo or Mark came from a taekwondo, hapkido background. He did other things too, but he always was taught the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Of, you know, fighting that force against force, and it was not structural based, right?
Like external generating speed and power, external force, you know, just really using momentum as opposed to, you know, there was never any discussion about focusing, connecting the internal bones, if you will, kind of in your body to make yourself strong on the outside. It was all outside.
Outside,
yeah.
Yes.
And that feels very different. You know, there's people much smaller than both of us that when they learn this, it's the same type of neutralizer.
It's not a matter of size, and I realize that that's what appearances are, that it's outside, but it's not, it's inside. And that's one of the main reasons this is called internal.
Yeah.
Internal, you shouldn't think of the word internal as some woo-woo, mystical thing like that. Internal basically means your work is being done inside.
Yes.
Right? I mean, there's more to it as well, but that's the simplest, most basic understanding of internal versus external. Whereas external martial arts really think about how hard and how fast they can move. It's these external qualities, right?
Yeah.
Internal qualities, you don't think about how fast you're moving, and you don't think about how much power you're delivering. You don't think about that. You're not trying to be slow. You're not trying to be unpowered. But at the same time, you're thinking about stability. You're thinking about timing.
Yep.
You're thinking about efficiency, right? You're thinking about connecting, and all the work that's going on is inside, not to deliver outside.
And the main thing that I've seen physically that you'll feel, external versus internal, and Sifu and I talk about this a lot, but if you start to feel something in your muscles, like your front delts or something, when you're doing any type of move, if you feel pressure, you start to feel like a muscular pressure, and it makes the muscle, temporarily, like you feel it. Oh, I feel like my shoulders are engaged, to kind of either push this person away or throw this punch. I feel like my shoulder or something's in it. Well, then it's external. And it's the internal feeling is something that you'll feel in your brain because you're focusing on connecting everything. You're not focusing on, you won't feel it in your muscles, really. You won't, you're not going to feel it physically outside.
So there's different muscles that you use when you're doing internal stuff, and a lot of it has to do with the back, the glutes and the lats are really the things that are really, really turned on.
Yes.
Okay? And then from there, you gotta make sure that you're not pushing something away. So the front delt is a culprit to pushing or force against force, really. So when you start, you'll start to learn what these muscles feel like when you're doing it incorrectly, and you'll say, oh, okay, let me back away from that and get into my structure.
Yes.
And feel what it feels like inside.
Yes.
Right? Because when you feel force from someone else, we shouldn't fight against it. That's force against force.
Right.
We all do it first, right? But what we're teaching ourselves to do is handle it with the other muscles, the right. muscles, the Wing Chun specific muscles, because it's the Wing Chun specific weapon, okay? So a lot here, but when you're training on your own, the more focus you can put into these things we're talking about, the better your structure is going to develop, and really the better you are going to be at handling pressure from somebody else rather than fighting force against force.